Hundreds of nations have fallen to tyranny in the last century alone. This is our last chance to not relive history.
As we're finishing off this agenda, they'll be pulling the rug from underneath Americans at home.
They have tremendous influence on our president and Congress, and they really are calling the shots.
I think it's incumbent upon all of us as American citizens to pay attention.
Fall of the Republic identifies the enemies of our nation, the criminal offshore cartel, hell-bent on destroying sovereignty, and on its ashes constructing world government.
Tim Geithner, Bernanke, they're arsonists. They're asking for more matches. And the Congress is saying, who do we make the check out to?
Today seems like nobody does care. And right now in Washington, D.C., we have seen a fall of the Republic.
Get your copy of Fall of the Republic on DVD at Infowars.com or watch it online right now in super high quality at PrisonPlanet.tv. Hello, friends. This is Alex Jones. You've heard me talk about Cal-Ben 5-star soaps for years. This is an American-made product of the highest quality and compares to nothing you will find in stores. You can buy factory direct, shipped via UPS right to your door. Check them out on the web at 5starsoap.com. or call 800-340-7091. Take my word for it. Once you've used Pure Soap, you won't buy anything else. Since 1947, Cal-Ben Soap Company has been showing consumers that soap can be tough on dirt and gentle on the environment. Buy American and stay clean, as well as support InfoWars. Visit 5starsoap.com today or call 1-800-340-7091. Well, Marty, what do you have to say?
As founder and owner for over 63 years, satisfaction is guaranteed or double your dirt back. Call us at 1-800-340-7091 for a free catalog or visit our website, 5starsoap.com. Thank you.
This is Alex Jones with 5 good reasons you should consider buying a solar power generator. Number 1, new climate legislation could easily double or triple your electric bill. Number 2, our new energy czar wants to control how much power your electric company allows you to have. It's true. Total government control of electricity in the name of smart grid technology is coming. Number 3, in some areas of the country, the power grid is dangerously overloaded. And now, new socialist legislation is only compounding the problem. Number 4, dangerous weather is always a threat to local grids. Every year, thousands of families lose their power from weather-related outages. Number 5, a solar power generator provides powerful backup insurance and peace of mind. Folks, I really believe in the solar power generators offered by Solutions from Science, one of my oldest sponsors. You can get more information at www.mysolarbackup.com. That's mysolarbackup.com. Remember, the government doesn't own the sun, so go to mysolarbackup.com or call 1-877-327-0365.
We now take you live
To the Central Texas Command Center.
in the heart of the resistance. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
We are back live. Dr. Nick Begich riding shotgun with us. Honored to have him. We're going to go back to him in a moment. You know, we're carrying 2 new films, one of which I produced. One illustrates the political rulers of this planet and their open call to set up a global planetary dictatorship for the orderly population reduction of at least 80% of the planet. And then a scientific dictatorship over the 500 million that remain. So we know they've built this system and are accelerating its completion, and we know that they do not have our interest at heart. That is covered in the film Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined, Jason Bermas's excellent work, available at Infowars.com. And then this film, what in the world are they spraying, getting into now so many of the public admissions of the geoengineering. Just what the researchers 15, 16, 17 years ago said, aluminum dioxide, barium salt. Turns out that's exactly what they are spraying. The patents for mixing it in the jet fuel, you name it. It is What in the World Are They Spraying? All available at the online video bookstore of Infowars.com. And they are discounted. I might add for you. You can also call toll-free 888-253-3139, 888-253-3139, or write to us, P.O. Box 19549, Austin, Texas 78760. Going back to Dr. Nick Begich, start over because that was a short segment. You got interrupted by the break. You were getting into going to this important global meeting. You've also advised the EU Parliament. You also, again, I mean, are really covering serious issues here. Right. And so go back to the point, you were having an argument, will it be chemical suppression? We know that's the old 60-year-old system of fluoride in the water. Or will it be electromagnetic? Go ahead.
Right, and so we have this discussion, and the biggest concern of the folks with the chemical model was, yeah, and their answer ran kind of like this. Yeah, we know about all that, but it's hard enough to tell the public about the chemicals, much less their interactions now with all these various forms of energy surrounding us. But let me explain just a little bit. You know, when you look at Tesla's work, and I've read all of his patents, I've looked at all of his work in English and in German, and in looking at Tesla, his big thing really boils down to one thing, and it's resonance, harmonies. The ability to transmit a signal and receive a signal has everything to do with resonance and creating resonant signals and reactions. And so when you look at that in sort of the mechanical side of the world, although he did touch into health issues through his dithermy units and others, then I look at my good friend Reijo Michaela's work as an electrophysiologist, looking at the same mechanism but applying it to living things, particularly humans. When you look at how that works, is you can have, for instance, all of us have a little bit of iodine in our body, and we need that, and it regulates a lot of our biological functions. If we don't have enough, we got problems. If we have way too much, we have a toxic situation. Well, there was a guy named Becker who wrote some excellent work that used this as an example, and you can send in, for instance, a signal that harmonizes with iodine, and actually when you then look at the body, the person being impacted by this external signal, they show all the symptoms of iodine poisoning, except when you do the blood work, you check the thyroid, there's no indication of why that should be, just the symptoms appear, a mystery illness, if you will, and it's the same effect as the chemicals without them. Now you think about that for a moment, and you start to apply that to sort of the randomness of signals that come across and through us every day of various ways.
So not just premeditated governments or corporations with these technologies, but what about the cell phones and the wireless and this and being bathed in this frequency pollution?
This is actually in Europe, and I know people are going to say it's another greenie conspiracy, but actually it's not. There was a Swiss reinsurance went and looked at the insurance industry, and they are like one of the guys that tell the rest of the industry, hey guys, don't insure these risks because you'll lose your rear end. And what they said about electromagnetic pollution, or what they called electrosmog, is anyone who insures these kinds of risks in terms of physical effects, it will likely lead to the bankruptcy of the insurance industry if we start to insure these risks. And even Lloyd's of London, at my last check, would not sign on to biological risks, to risks of, say, cell phones affecting or creating tumors or this kind of thing, because the scientific literature is telling the insurance industry, which tends to respond a little bit faster than most because they have real money at stake, won't insure these risks. Now, if you take that and you overlay it across everything we've done, and this is one of the observations in Europe. In Europe, they noticed that a certain species of pine tree was just dying out. They couldn't figure it out. And then people started to look at the science, and these forests were sitting between microwave transmitters that were transmitting millimeter waves, very short wavelengths, that happened to correlate, to harmonize with the needles of that particular pine tree, and they acted like little antennas receiving that signal, but then altering the nature of those plants and causing them to die off. That is how resonance works. You know, when you think about the bees, and what's going on with bees right now.
And by the way, I mean, just to interrupt you, because I want to, that was all over mainstream news in the last month. It is confirmed that this is going on, but I've just talked to highway repair crews, and because I've seen this visually myself, and I've said, are you cutting the plants more often right around these microwave towers? And they'll say no, and I'll say, well, I mean, have you noticed that the grass doesn't grow as fast or doesn't grow as well or is dead when it gets dry? And they said, absolutely. I mean, you can drive around and just visually see how unhealthy plants are around these towers. And there's all the studies about increases in tumors. I mean, as you know, for decades, schools would get money to put a cell phone tower right on top of the school, and then the kids on the 3rd floor, massive cancer, same things in buildings. I mean, we know, there's how many thousands of studies have shown the same thing?
Well, plenty, and I'll tell you, even and other health authorities around the world pay attention to it. The German health authorities do not allow towers to be erected around places where children congregate, daycare centers and schools. In Europe, in Great Britain, they warn parents every school year before school begins, don't let your kids use cell phones under a certain age because they're still developing, and the effects of these are pretty profound. And the difference is they use what's called the precautionary principle in Europe on environmental and health issues, where they start to tell the public about the time the insurance companies start to get concerned, the public gets to get the information. So we get to make the same kind of decision some insurance company gets to make, which is, do we want to take the risk or not, even though all the science might not be in. And in over 40 years that they've applied this principle throughout Europe, they have never once been wrong.
Well, to magnify that, that's just like the FDA doesn't want us to know if we have a genetically engineered cross-species salmon.
Right.
In America, we have to fight to even know if we're eating a clone.
Well, and here in Alaska, we don't allow farmed salmon because we actually have a good product. It's created naturally. We're the 12th largest fishery in the world. That's ranking us against every country in the world, Alaska alone. We produce 90% of all of the fresh caught salmon that people consume in the United States, and most people don't know it. And there is a difference. When you start to genetically modify, and this gets back in to the topic of the day, you can deliberately manipulate salmon species so they grow 30 times faster by messing around with the DNA, but you can also alter salmon species in a couple of other ways. You can alter their migration patterns because they orient by magnetic field lines, and our technologies are now interfering, causing disruptions in those migrations. And secondly, you can alter, using, again, electromagnetic fields, you can manipulate what happens within DNA structures. So you can alter species, either accidentally as a side effect or a deliberate effect. And this is, again, where the problem comes in. Those same microwaves that transfer all of our communications, a slight change, just a slight change in the wavelength might eliminate the biological interactions. In other words, they're so precise, they're like dialing through the radio station. They only count when you get harmony, resonance between the transmitter and receiver, and you get a nice clear signal like people dialing to the dial and hearing us today. The same is true with the Earth and all of the living things on the Earth, including us. But in between the stations, it's just static. No harm, no foul. That's what we need to learn to express. And so much of the work in this area has been classified for weapons application, yet the understanding of sort of what areas and what energy ranges do you avoid, we used to think it was just high-energy, heat-producing kind of energy, but it's not. The subtle energies also have huge effects, and we can segregate that through knowledge and then run our technologies in a much safer, conducive way. In fact, there are certain energy fields that actually increase our potential health-wise rather than depress it. And so we need to be more mindful of what we're doing and be more deliberate in it so that we don't interfere with people and living creatures, and that we're good stewards on this planet in a balanced and appropriate way.
In your gut, Dr. Nick Begich, do you believe humanity is going to make it to a Type 1 civilization? For those that don't know, that means a civilization viable, not just bound to this planet. Will humanity survive? Because the attitudes and the behaviors of the globalists is they seem to in a social Darwinistic way, just embrace anything, no matter how horrible, and they make a lot of self-destructive, nihilistic statements, and they claim there's this big method to their madness, and they're good at screwing stuff up and stealing and robbing, right. But I don't have a lot of confidence unless free humanity forces a renaissance of real debate and then takes control of our global civilization and forces a real debate about this. I don't have a lot of hope for us, and I unfortunately, don't even know if I'll be able to live to see grandchildren if we don't turn this around. What's your gut tell you?
Well, I am obviously concerned, or I wouldn't be engaged in the work. And I joke with people, I call myself a pathological optimist. Because because I still think there's a way for humanity through this. I just really believe that, and I believe it on a fundamental basis. I think that